I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
I think Helldivers 2 is one of the greatest modern game experiences I've ever had. From goofing around with my friends to having insane cinematic moments. Today, I want to dive into the collapse and resurrection of Helldivers 2, exploring how they fixed their game and brought back their players. So let's dive right into it. Everyone knows about the launch of Helldivers 2. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing it. It was all over Reddit, it was all over Twitter, it was all over Steam. Every single one of your friends was probably playing this game because it was just the fun times. It harkened back to, I feel like, the days of Halo or original Call of Duty, where you just got on with your friends and had fun. You know, you goofed around. Sometimes you all died and failed the mission. Hopefully most of the time you won and just kept grinding and leveling up, collecting the samples, getting new guns. It wasn't microtransaction hungry. It just felt like a good game to play. Hey everyone, I just wanted to cut in here and say that 98% of you aren't subscribed, and I want to keep making these top 10 out of 10 videos, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you. But the good times didn't last. I would say the biggest controversy that first happened was the PSN account linking feature. PC players were going to be forced to require a PlayStation Network login account, and that sparked widespread backlash. There was review bombings on Steam, and the enforcement of account linking alienated the player base because a lot of people didn't want to make a Sony account after the hacks all those years ago. So the controversy highlighted a disconnect between the developers and the players. I think it was more of a Sony stepping in situation saying, hey, let's try to capitalize on this and make sure that all these people can join PlayStation Network. I always believed that PlayStation wanted to launch their own counter Steam, if you will, to host all the Sony games. But after this whole backlash with Helldivers 2, I don't think that's ever going to happen now. And we all know what happened. That decision ended up being reversed after the significant criticism that players lobbied at Sony. But I feel like the damage was done to the community. The trust was just lost. People didn't believe the devs. They thought they were just puppets of Sony and fully controlled. But while that was all more of a personal issue with the players, I feel like the biggest gameplay problem was the aggressive nerfs. This forced players into a narrow meta because everything felt so weak now. You were using the same loadout over and over and over again, and then when the best loadout was nerfed, nothing worked anymore. You were just super weak, and you felt like the imbalance of the playstyle. The enemies were so strong, especially remember those humongous rocket troopers? They were just blasting you all the way across the map, and there was nothing you could do about it. You felt like you couldn't fight.
Oh my god!
The only good stratagems, only had a certain amount of uses, and they were on such a long cooldown that it really didn't matter anyways. By the time you were able to use your third volley, you would just already be destroyed, you'd run out of lives, and you'd lose all your samples. So I feel like these two things were the biggest problems with Helldivers 2, and it was pushing the game towards an early death. But that's when the developers buckled down and said, you know what, no, we're not going to let this game die, we're going to listen to the community. The developers at Arrowhead actively monitored their social media and Discord. They looked for in-game feedback to address the core issues. And that's when things really started turning around. In September 2024, a major patch was released that rolled back several of the unpopular weapon nerfs, and it buffed key items like the railgun again, the flamethrower, and the thermal grenade. With this patch, variety was reintroduced into the loadouts. No longer were you too weak, and no longer was there just one meta to follow. You were able to experiment with different weapons and stratagems and really push your, gameplay experience to another level. It felt like the game had just relaunched. And just a few months later in December, they launched the Omens of Tyranny update. That introduced the Illuminate. New missions, new objectives, new enemies. They were all created, and it just was able to introduce things people were asking for a long time. Like urban combat and vehicles that were faster than the mechs to really zoom around the map and take out these objectives. The Illuminate arrival expanded the story. You saw how these civilians were really turned into these former husks. Even when they die, they're doing the super salute. And it immersed players into the world. 133,000 players reconnected with the game and jumped back on Steam to play. It was resonating with the community and the fans of the game. Arrowhead announced that shortly after this, they were going to have gameplay updates to continually refine the gameplay, showing that the comeback was not a one-off effect. They cared about the players, and they wanted to make sure they stuck around this time. The commitment to long-term support allowed players to really believe what Arrowhead was saying. It made them think, oh my gosh, these developers care about us and want to make sure their game survives. But besides these big updates that added, the Illuminate, they focused on the little things as well. They wanted to retain the unique humor that Helldivers 2 presented. New videos in your Super Destroyer showcased, world-building potential and how, they were listening to the players. For example, this Eagle Sweat commercial.
You crash on an uncharted planet, stranded light years from liberty. Then you hear them. They're almost on you, teeth gnashing, venom glistening in the twin moonlight. Suddenly, you remember the one thing that can save you. Eagle Sweat. One spray and the world shifts. You mount the beasts and rise, master of your domain, a god among the cosmos. Before long, you are home.
Eagle Sweat. With patented nanofragrance technology that literally puts odor molecules to the rack until they give up their secrets. Eagle Sweat. Don't just smell it, live it.
Is it super cringe? Of course it is. But that doesn't matter because everyone loves Eagle 1, and we all know that she's going to come in there and save the day when things are bad. So Helldivers 2 journey from a celebrated launch to a troubled mid-game to a celebrated comeback is a testament to the power of game development. As long as you are engaging with the community and doing things that they like, the community is willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. And as I was making this video, new content just dropped for the game. A brand new war bond. With that, came some leaks for new content that I won't discuss here. But things are looking up for the game, and I believe more players are going to come back and keep the game alive. So that was Helldivers 2 Fall from Grace and its triumphant return. I hope you enjoyed your meal, and I'll see you in the next video.